It's preparing the child for marriage and family life. And similarly, the issue of careers, which I'll come to speak about in a moment. You find that as a child is going through teenage years, they are beginning to feel this is what they would like to do, not this. They'll start saying, no, me, things that are to do with numbers and so on, way. They want the sort of social side of studies. That's them. That's the way in which God has wired them. Or it can be the exact opposite. They thrive on numbers. That's them. And again, you simply have to appreciate that that's what has happened. So it's an all-important stage. They've entered into it. There's nothing you can do about it. It's God's biological clock that is out working. What's your role there? Well, in both cases, it's talk about it. So I'm beginning with the life partner issues. Talk about male-female issues so that they are free to talk with you about members of the opposite sex in their lives. Talk about it. Now, the issue of a child just coming to announce that I have a boyfriend, I have a girlfriend. What happened? Where was I? While all this was beginning, I mean, how come I didn't know that, Dad, I'm failing to sleep these days because of this girl called Grace at school. We need to talk about her dad. Oh, Mom. Now, if that's not happening, then there is a role that you did not play during this period. You did not play a role in their lives that made them recognize that interest in members of the opposite sex is not sinful. It's natural. If it hasn't happened yet, son, daughter, it's gonna happen soon. And the reason why God has given me to you is so that just as I will help to guide you in your career choice, I will also help you to guide you in your life partner choice. And just as with the career choice, I will not leave my failed future in you. You know what that means? I failed to be a doctor, so you must be a doctor. Doesn't matter what you want, you must be a doctor. I want to do that. In the same way, I will not choose your future partner. But you need somebody who has been there to be able to tell you that not all that glitters is and so on. Surely you need to bring up those opportunities so that you can talk. And again, it's your responsibility as a parent to break the ice, because where the children are out there in the world, the impression they have according to the world is that these are things you don't talk about with parents. These are the secrets. But you need to show them that that's a wrong understanding. Because then, who is going to give you counsel? If you want to travel from Lusaka to Chipata, and then when you get to Chipata, you're trying to find a township near ShopRite or something, what you do is you ask somebody who lives there. Eh? And especially if you already know somebody who's trustworthy, that's the one you ask. That's what I aim for. So let's talk. And one of the important things you could do is go away from home. The boys, the guys, this weekend, we're going to a lodge. And you know what the subject is? Girls. They make you very excited. Girls! Girls, daddy! All your part is planned, you know. You're hoping to break the ice. So you get there, you have your meal, you get together now and say, guys, it's fine. Let's talk about this creature called a girl. I have one in my life, your mother. So let's talk. And you are opening up the avenue. And of course, women can do the same on the other side. It's important. Because there are two things that are likely to destroy your child's life. And it's those two. The failure to handle career and work, the failure to handle their sex life. Some of us. And if we are not active during this period, when they are finding themselves, we are really the ones failing them. I want to spend a little bit of time on this third one. Talk to them about the world of work. What would you like to be? Teach the cultural mandate from Genesis 1. This is vital at this stage. I'll try and reduce it to not more than 10 minutes. But the reason why I want to speak about it is because very few of us have had the opportunity from childhood to have been given a biblical, God-centered view of work. So we've ended up getting into careers on the basis that MWBMP. That's all, MWBMP. So even if it's something you don't really like, it's not something you want to do. You just study for it, train for it, and finally get into it just so that you can get some money. Here our concern, remember, is to develop a generation, to produce children at the end of this process who can go into this world and be responsible citizens. So here we are. Let me try and put it this way from Genesis 1. When God made the world, in Genesis 1, verse 1, the world he made was a total mess. A complete mess. To borrow the words of the Bible, it was without form and was empty. Now, you know when we say without form, right? It's terrible. That's the way he first made it. Why? Because God could have easily made it. When he said, let there be, it would have already been the way it was at the end of chapter 1. Why did God first make his world a mess? Now, I won't embarrass you by asking you to answer, but I just want you to, I'm deliberately taking long because I want you to think. Because this is something our children desperately need. Let me go further. And very soon you all have the answer. So there will be no reward because it will be 2 years. For the first 3 days after that, God addressed the first part of that problem. Remember, he made it without form, void, as some versions put it, rather, without form and then void, as some version puts it, okay, or empty. The first 3 days, he was simply addressing the question of form. That was all. So the first thing he did was to separate night and day, remember? Then the next was to separate the waters above from the waters below, remember? And then on the third day, he separated land from sea. And then he put a nice green covering over the land side, the vegetation. What happened by the third day, the end of the third day? It was no longer formless. It was beautiful. There was separation, there was separation, there was a nice cover. He himself from time to time would stand back and say, wow, this looks good. Then for the next 3 days, he addressed the second part. Remember, it was not just formless, but it was also empty. So with respect to the emptiness, he begins to feel it. And the first thing he does is to feel the skies. The sun, the moon, the stars, remember? The next day, he feels the waters below and the sky with birds. So fish and birds. And then on the third day, he feels the land with all the creatures that walk on the land. And the last to be put there is you and me, the human beings. And he stands back and says, this is very good. 6 solid days. 3 days creating form, the other 3 days feeling it. Why? I'll give you one more hint, and I'm sure after that you don't need to be a genius to know why. On the 7th day, he rested. So why did he do that? Why did he work like that for 6 days and then rest on the 7th? Thank you very much. You see what I mean? Thankfully, I did not promise anyone my salary. Otherwise, I would have been weeping at this stage. Okay. Yes. It was so that we can have an example. And after that, he then said to us, here's the word. I've given you my example, now look after it. And in looking after it, he expects us to do it with our own gifts and abilities. So the way in which Mrs. Mbewe will do it is different from the way I will do it, be different from the way Derek will do it, because he's given us different abilities, different opportunities. And even in terms of levels of giftedness, some of us are 1 star, others are 5 stars, and so on. But he has then given us his word, and he is saying, look after it, take care of it, manage it, develop it, harness the potential that is in the world, and progress. Now, that's extremely important for our children to grasp. That you see, what I do from Monday to Saturday matters to God. I worship with my hands. Even when I'm under some car in a blue overall and trying to remove this cap so that I can get this oil that has overstayed out, I'm worshiping. I am doing godliness. That's what I'm doing. That's the way my God worked. And then, on the 7th day, I go to his house and say, thank you for having given me strength, ability, and health to have done the work I did. I now come to you to adore you and worship you and give you thanks. And that's the cycle that our children ought to see is the meaning to life. So that by the time then your child is going out of your home, his understanding of work is that this is about my godliness. Are we together? That there is a God-centered worldview that is there. Now, I've rushed through, as I promised, just in 10 minutes. But I hope you've at least sort of just had a feel of something of that. Otherwise, I could have gone on and on. I haven't even touched the actual mandate. Be fruitful, fill the earth, multiply, fill the earth, and subdue it. Because again, your children need to see that God is not expecting us to finish all this in one generation, but He wants us to make our mark in our generation so that the next generation can build on. Because you can't fill the earth in one generation. Nangula fiala. You can't. But you see, you play your part and then hand over to the next. You have your culture, you pass it on to the next. You have your values, you pass them on to the next. You increase in knowledge, discoveries, you develop things, you pass them on to the next. And that next builds on it and passes it on to the next. That gives your children a sense of purpose. And not just going through, just drinking and lying around here, there, drinking, lying around. Come on, you're not an animal. Your life has purpose. God has plugged you in at this point. Do your part. And as you lie on your deathbed, you should be able to say to